Boindil strikes up song during your hike. A short while later, Bavrigor joins in. But rather than actually singing along, he tries to outdo Boindil with his own songs. When he finally strikes up a love song, Boindil becomes absolutely livid. You take the stonemason to one side and ask him if he's doing it on purpose.
Of course I'm doing it on purpose. I'm gonna make him suffer the whole journey.
Can't go on like this. We can't fight amongst ourselves and save Girdlegard.
You take a short break before you dare breach the roots of the problem.
It's to do with a woman, right?
Not in the way you might think. Smeralda was my sister, a young thing of only 40 cycles.
Bavrigor takes a large swig of his liquor before he continues.
She was almost as belligerent as Boindil, and she got it into her blockhead to stand by him in battle. A bad decision.
You can see the pain he is suffering in his eyes. You place a hand on his shoulder and put him under no pressure to carry on. The constant bickering between Boindil and Bavrigor distracts you. Goimgar hears the clanking of armor first.
Something's coming!
Before you know it, the orcs are charging towards you over a hillside.
Yes?
What is it? Who's next?
Yes?
Disgusting. What is it? What's up?
Another one bites the dust!
Was I?
Engineering you forever!
As
good as done.
Eat first, Nully.
Huh? Oh, what bad luck for you! Alright! Say goodbye forever!
Ah, that was refreshing. Hey, here comes some more. 3, 4, 5 or 6.
5 or 6? Oh, phew. He means 5 or 600.
Goimgar turns white as a sheet.
That's too many. To the city. Come on.
You flee towards Mifidania, with Goimgar out ahead. The orcs at his back seem to have mobilized unimagined powers in him, and he reaches the gate first, hammering manically against it. He says something and scurries through a small gateway that has been opened to him. Moments later, you also reach the gate.
Get in, quickly!
You push your way through the gate as the first orc arrows slam into the wood next to you.
The other dwarf said we should bolt the gate behind him, but we could use all the help we can get when the orcs come.
That treacherous sissy, where is he?
Boindal and I will look for him. Boindil and Bavrigor, help the city guards in any way you can.
You were certain the two of them wouldn't be much help in the search for Goimgar. Weyon is well known for its love of the written word. Some of the scripts on offer are known to you from Lot Yonan's library. Weyon has many huge lakes and is rich in a variety of fish and seafood. As the mountains of the Dwarves are far away from these large lakes, most of the fish are not part of their normal diet.
I am glad that the children of Vrachus are here. What can I do for you, sir?
The man tries to give off an air of normality, but he occasionally glances nervously over to the city wall.
This is the biggest human city I've ever seen, after Parista.
You haven't chosen a very good time to take a look at Mifadania, sir, and I don't just mean because of the orcs outside our gates. The winter is only just now retreating into the mountains. In a couple of weeks, it will be spring, and the city will burst into bloom.
The man glances at the city wall once again.
At least, I hope it will.
Have you heard any news from other lands?
Nodon is rampaging through the land with his orcs and the Alpha. The Magi are all dead, and no one has heard any more of the host that moved against Porista. These are dark times, but I think it's important that we don't despair. We must trust in the gods. We have to.
You would have liked to have told the trader that, as well as trusting in the gods, he should also wish you and your companions luck. But that would have just led to more questions. In the past, travelling showmen regularly put up tents like this in front of Lot Yonan's vaults to draw a little money from the pockets of the servants and the famuli, with plays, vocal performances, and all kinds of fun. All of the gates are bolted shut. The city seems to be secure, at least for the moment. Locked gates also mean, of course, that you can't get out.
So, have you found the little coward? He must be somewhere in the city. He's too scared to leave it.
Look at all those runts. They are growing in number by the day, and still they don't dare to come closer. Ha! They know very well that they can't get over our walls.
The main gate is bolted shut and makes a sturdy impression. As long as there are men who know how to defend the gate, the orcs will not be able to get through it.
There's a whole load of orcs out there, but the walls should hold out. They're quite solid for human walls.
You only know of obelisks from books, and you didn't expect to see one here. The inscription seems to you to be of southern origin. You see some good horses and ponies in the stables. You decide to find out about prices as soon as you have found Goimgar. After having seen the kingdom of the Secondlings, even this impressive human city is somehow rather disappointing. The only thing that attracts your attention are the oil lamps that line the street. Only a trading city could afford something like that.
The fabulous Rodario.
Cometh, dear spectators, cometh and see! Let the Theatre Curiosum, with its star actor, the fabulous Rodario, the mysterious Nomora, and the genius Magister Technicus, Fergas, carry you off to another world. Now see and hear, dear spectators, the truth about Nudin the Knowledge Lusty, who disposed of the other Magi in a most horrifying way and plunged Girdlegard into disaster.
Girdlegard, it will be mine.
Not young? When you murdered Frala and the others,
To your horror, you realize that you can no longer talk. You feel a lump in your throat, and your eyes begin to burn, as images of the vaults and Cintharas appear in front of you.
I see that my first strike really hit you, Groundling. Oh, how they screamed. If only you had been there to help them.
Before you know it, you are overcome with hatred for those who destroyed your home and killed your loved ones.
by Fracas, I'm going to kill you!
You might try to. And I will take great pleasure in your attempt. Who shall I pick out next, Who amongst your traveling companions means the most to you?
You don't want to take part in the Alf's game and keep your lips tightly sealed while you consider your means of escape.
This way!
Was that an elf?
If we're quick, we'll get that long ear yet!
Alarm! Alarm! The orcs are attacking!
Come, we must defend the walls! Understood. Yes?
Come here, hammer! Away!
Understood. At once. Yes?
Prepare yourself! What is it? Huzzah! Who's next? I'm not that quick!
Huh?
Don't take it personally. Disgusting.
Understood.
Come here, you!
We're not.
Twist my hammer! What is it? He put up a fight! Oh, what bad luck for you! And you're right forever! Pow! Another one bites the dust!
Yes? Kill!
Too easy! Fires you! And what now?
A bit too much for you, was I?
Very good. We're able to stop them. Cintharas.
You wish it weren't so. But it is clear to you now that the city can no longer be saved.
To the side gate. It's our only chance. Huh? Yes?
On the way!
And again. Understood.
Who's next?
Attack!
Disgusting.
Oh, what bad luck for you! What is it?
Almost done. It's locked. We have to open it somehow.
Perhaps we can be of service, gentlemen.
Step aside.
Are you thieves?
Certainly not. We are artists. People with extraordinary talents. Say, friends, as you clearly mean to leave Mifadania too, would you have anything against us joining you?
We have a long and dangerous journey ahead of us. I don't think you really want to join us.
An epic and dangerous journey? That sounds like an adventure. And anyway, I have already seen that you know how to handle those weapons of yours. In these dangerous times, a big travel group offers the best protection, don't you think?
The fabulous Rodario!
Oh, an admirer of my skills? Who would have thought it? I am indeed the one and only fabulous Rodario. This worthy gentleman here is Fergus, the best Magister Technicus since human thought. And last but not least, the enchanting Namora, whose beauty makes the mayor's roses wither in envy. Perhaps we should discuss the rest when we are out of this mess.
I don't know,
The orcs are still surging through the gate and over the wall. You decide that this isn't the right time for discussions.
All right then, let's go.
Let's get out of here. We'll be safe with the Firstlings.
The Firstlings, the splendor of their halls is said to be unrivaled, and I have heard they have fascinating contraptions, Fergus, that are almost reminiscent of magic.
It's open, let's go.
In the evening, after your escape from Mifadania, you recover from your exertions around a campfire. Goimgar withdraws to a solitary corner. Bavragor devotes himself to his alcohol, and the twins get their smelly dwarf cheese out. Namora and Fergus exchange hugs and kisses on the other side of the fire, while Rodario sits next to you.
Ah, a journey with real dwarves to the stronghold of the Firstlings. I'm sure I can write that into my new piece.
I must congratulate you on your skills. Find it hard to believe that it's not achieved by magic.
Aha, thank you, but I assure you it has nothing to do with magic. Just alchemy and accomplished acting. We leave the sorcery to the Magi.
Don't mention them. There's no love lost on Andakai and her walking iron tower.
You've met Andokai the Tempestuous? That is unbelievable. How was she?
She ran away to the Outer Lands. A damn disgrace.
Adakai had her reasons to leave us. She had already fought against Nodon and was unsuccessful. Furthermore, we wouldn't be here without her, and she told us about Keenfire.
Andokai, the bringer of hope. I like that. I'll have to use that in my new piece.
True to his words, Rodario takes out his notebook and writes something down.
We're far enough away from Mifadania. Perhaps we should part ways tomorrow morning.
Rodario jumps up and begins to gesticulate ostentatiously.
I think you have underestimated us. Let me introduce myself and my colleagues once more. I am the Fabulous.
We don't have time to look after a pack of jesters.
Rodario seems offended for a moment, but then he grins, turns away from the group and raises his right arm. A jet of flame shoots out of his sleeve. The dwarves are startled and amazed by the brief spectacle.
And what do you say now, critical Mr. Dwarf?
You're a magus. I don't particularly like them either.
At the Curiosum, magic is my area of responsibility. There is a tube under his arm with a flint and a bag full of Lycopediella seeds. When he firmly presses the bag, the flint sprays sparks and the seeds shoot out. And there you have it. Magic fire.
Masterly work, Fergus.
The Magister Technicus shows his appreciation with a nod of his head.
If they all have tricks like this up their sleeves, well, they might not be such a burden after all, Tungdil.
How are you doing for provisions? We don't have enough.
We are happy to share what we have. It isn't very much, though. We had to leave most of it behind.
Food is sure to be a problem on our journey. Winter's only just beginning to leave Wayan, and people will be keeping a tight grip on the stocks they do have because of the orc attacks.
We have to be frugal and organize as much food as we can. It wouldn't be much of a heroic story if we starved on the way to the Firstlings.
Do you know anything about the Firstlings? If I recall the map correctly, we need to cross the first large mountains in the Red Range and then pass through Snowdale to East Ironhald Stronghold.
No one has seen the Firstlings for hundreds of cycles, but there are many stories about them. Their craftsmanship is much vaunted, and there used to be trade via a narrow path that led into the mountains, but I don't think there is a man living now who has ever walked that road.
Our mission is to forge the legendary axe Keenfire and destroy the traitor Nod-On. If you wish to accompany us through hunger, coldness, and danger, then do so. It's your decision.
How could we not partake in such a story? Just think what a wonderful play we could make of it.
If we survive. I was hoping to only resurface once we reach the Red Range. Instead, we have a long journey and a dangerous climb ahead of us.
There may be another way apart from the old trading route. A few years ago, an old man from the north told me of a place called Wackenstein. Apparently, there is an old path there, older than the dwarven tunnels themselves.
Legends and stories. There's too much uncertainty. Let's just see what the next few days bring.
The all too familiar stench of tallow and grease reaches your nose. You know what this means.
What the hell were those things?
Goimgar carefully pokes one of the dead little creatures with his sword, as if he fears it'll jump up and attack him.
Have you never defended your past, Simmerbeard? Those are Bognalim. Small, ugly, stinking, cowardly. Sound like anyone you know?
Goimgar looks angrily at Boindil and is going to reply, but Namora speaks first.
They are like little orcs. They are even more primitive and make up for their physical weakness through their sheer numbers. They live in caves all around here.
While the others talk about Bognalim, you examine a decorated ox skull that the orcs had with them. It wasn't made by them, and somehow looks valuable. You pocket it. You are walking past an inconspicuous copse as Namora suddenly stops on the spot.
Wait! We are not alone. Someone is watching us.
A trap?
Die, scum!
What are you doing? Why are you attacking us? We're dwarves too. We're on the same side.
I see honest dwarves here, but they are accompanied by scum. I will free you of it!
Oh, really? And what are you going to do on your own against 8?
You, come here.
What? Ha
Brother,
What are you doing?
Boindle, what's wrong? Come to your senses!
It's no use. They belong to me. Now die, scum.
Huh? Well? Yes?
What?
I knew it!
Yes,
You're
yes,
going to leave
sir.
me here to perish!
Give me a hand!
Friends!
For
I could
breakfast.
do with some help! Even I am not that quick.
Axes over here!
He cheated! I took my hammer!
How many is that
On
now?
my way.
Wasn't expecting this!
Just a minute.
What's up? Taste my hammer!
Yes, soon. Just a minute. Yes, soon.
No sooner does the unknown dwarf fall unconscious to the floor than her control over your comrades disappears. You fetter and gag her until you know more about her sinister powers.
That was, I hope I didn't hurt you, Scholar.
It was as if in a dream, but at the same time, it wasn't. I heard her voice in my head, and although I knew better, I only saw orcs attacking me. You were the enemy.
Boindil goes over to the shackled dwarf and kicks her gently with his boot.
This is never a child of the smith, even if she looks like one. Those gifts. By Vrackus, there is something evil at work.
You kneel in front of the dwarf and press your axe against her throat.
My name is Tungdil. If I remove your gag, will you answer some questions?
The captive nods, and you pull the gag out of her mouth.
Geralda is my name. It would seem I underestimated you.
Your powers, I've never heard of anything like it.
Neither have I. I haven't had them for long. When I try to remember, all I see is black mist, and I taste iron and mud, and there's an elf who...
Did the Alpha give you these powers?
When I try to remember, it hurts, like needles sticking into my head. I am Geralda Bloodstone. I was...
You said something about scum when you attacked us. Has Namora done anything to harm you?
Not her, but her kind. Alpha.
She is a human. She only acts at being an elf in theatre.
In the theatre?
For the first time, Geralda looks at Namora without a hateful expression.
She must die.
Where have you come from and what brings you to Wayan?
I was on my way to the Free Folk. They are said to live in the middle of Girdlegard, without kingdoms or their laws.
The Free Folk? You mean dwarves?
Yes, dwarfs who have left their kingdoms, voluntarily or otherwise. Not everyone has a place in their kingdom.
You instinctively think of your own plight. You are not a secondling, and won't be welcome among the Firstlings since you placed obstacles in their king's path.
Don't believe this nonsense, Scholar. The Free Folk are just a fairy tale that people tell themselves when they don't want to stick to the traditions. Just look what good it's done Geralda.
Geralda prepares to reply, but then she holds back.
Enough talk! She is dangerous, probably crazy. She attacked us, we should put an end to her.
It's what you call amnesia, memory loss, a tool often used in stage productions. We don't know what happened to her, and maybe she doesn't either. We can't just kill her.
She's too dangerous just to let go, so we'll take her with us. Remove the fetters.
You nip any objection in the bud and turn to Geralda.
Listen, don't know what has happened to you, but we are dwarves and we shouldn't fight against one another. We could do with your help.
The female dwarf seems just as surprised by your decision as your companions.
Thank you. I would be happy to accompany you. I am Gerelda Bloodstone, of the Firstlings Kingdom. I'm sorry that I attacked you. It was a misunderstanding.
You realize that your decision doesn't please everyone. Boindil and Namora seem particularly upset, but they hold back and you continue on your way, a slightly gloomy mood hanging over the group. Your path leads you to a small fishing village on the banks of Lake Ontario. The villagers are busy and don't pay you much attention, apart from a fisherman on a boat who nods at you before returning to his nets. You can just about make out a jetty on the other side of the lake. You leave Polebrook. You spend the night protected from the wind in a ruin, and are sitting around a campfire as the topic of your new companion's performance on the stage comes up.
Sleight of hand, speed, alchemy, and makeup can have an incredible effect. Namora transformed herself into an elf using the latter.
I also noticed your weapons, Namora. I've never seen such swords before.
Their names are Crescent and Sunbeam. I designed them myself. It took a long time until I found a smith who was able to make them.
She looks like a pointy ear too. Nature hasn't been kind to her.
For this absent-minded remark, Boindil receives evil looks from Namora and grins from the men.
Perhaps I really am an elf and will bring you a nightmare in your sleep tonight. Don't be surprised if you wake up screaming.
For a moment, it seems as though she has merged with the darkness, but when you blink, everything is back to normal.
By the gods! Isn't she magnificent in her role?
There is no denying what Rodario says. The group...
Is that medicine?
No, it's... I don't know either. If I don't drink it, I have a longing for it. It gets stronger and stronger until I can't stand it anymore. When I drink it, the longing disappears, and I feel rested and strong.
And when the phial's empty?
I don't know. I don't know where I got the drink from, let alone what it is. But if I don't drink it, Frackers, give me strength. I think I would go crazy or die.
Geralda plays with the phial, lost in her thoughts, as if she were trying to remember where she saw it for the first time. The size of the fields and the farmsteads grow as you get closer to Valenciensis, the old border city in the north. The old city wall is much too small for the size of today's settlement. Everywhere little cottages, and even the odd magnificent estate, extend beyond the wall.
Valenciensis. This city is home to the Grand Archive. There are countless works from all over Girdlegard here. I wonder whether we'll be allowed to go in.
You try to gain access to the city, but the guards on the wall are unyielding. The Orc armies in the south and the movement of the Perish land has prompted the city council to lock Valenciensis up. You try not to show your disappointment, but Boindil looks at you curiously.
Is a house full of dusty books really that important, scholar? That's no place for a dwarf.
There are also books by dwarves and about dwarves in that archive. They've practically got everything that has ever been written. They've even got notes on the races of Girdlegard, singularities and oddities, by M.A. Het.
A book about dwarves? That really can't be any good at all.
You leave the impressive city of Valenciensis behind you and continue on your way. As on the previous evening, Bavragor sits apart from the others. But tonight, he waves you over.
Smeralda, my sister. You want to know what happened, right?
You nod and sit down.
She followed Boindle into battle. We tried to talk her out of it, but she was as unyielding as a mountain. Then came the day when the High Pass was attacked.
Bavragor drinks from his liquor.
He killed her. Blinded by the frenzy of battle, he thought she was one of the enemy. I could never forgive him. He killed my sister. Could you?
You inevitably remember the loss of Lot Yonan, Frala, and her children. You remain sitting in silence, each of you deep in thought. Boendal approaches, having either heard you or guessing what you were talking about.
His fierce life forge is a curse. He thought the orcs had robbed him of his love, and the ire came over him. Sometimes he calls her name in his dreams. Oh, he'd never admit it, but he suffers just like Bavragor. He too loved her.
The stonemason doesn't react, so you and Boendal go back to the others by the fire. You arrive at an empty jetty on Lake Anteria. You can see several fishing boats on the lake, and there's a small village on the other shore.
Ah, Polbrook, what an idyllic little place. And then there's the miller's daughter.
You turn around. A two-story tavern sits on the corner of a crossroads. The snow around the building has been cleared away, and a warm light is coming from inside. The sign above the door reads Minstrel Castle.
Minstrel Castle? That sounds promising.
The old building has nothing in common with a castle. It seems rather nondescript. A simple tavern for simple people.
Finally! Time for ale! My throat is completely parched.
As much as I hate agreeing with you, I too can hardly wait.
You enter the tavern with Bavragor and Boindil in front. On first impression, the interior is as inconspicuous as the outside. But when you take a closer look, you spot a couple of paintings of minstrels in front of a castle, a small stage that, judging by the dust, is only very rarely used, and a lute hanging on the wall behind the bar. There are not very many guests on the ground floor, perhaps a dozen, and most of them belong to a group of mercenaries who have retreated into the far corner. You sit at a table, and after a while you are brought the ale that Boindil has ordered. You go to the bar where the landlady is working and sit on a stool. The landlady, a stout, middle-aged woman with long hair tied in a ponytail, looks up briefly but says nothing.
Say, why is the tavern called Minstrel Castle? It doesn't look much like a castle.
Oh, you don't know the legend, dwarf.
One of the guests next to you at the bar takes up your question.
There was a castle here once. No one knows its name anymore, so everyone just calls it Minstrel Castle. Once upon a time, a king lived in that castle. He had many subjects and an enchanting queen. But one day a young minstrel came along and sang of wonderful far-off lands, and the subjects began to complain about their own lives. So the king sent for the singer to hear for himself. He came and sang a wonderful love song, and the king began to be scared. He thought that the minstrel wanted to steal away his queen. Without flinching, he drew his sword and struck the boy down. His father heard of this. He was himself a singer, and so he went to the king and played a terrible song, a curse. The king was to vanish in silence, and no one was to remember his name.
And that's what happened. No one remembers the name of the king or his castle. Make of it what you will. The story's certainly well known enough in the area to give Arin its name.
You nod at the landlady. Bavrigor and Boindil, who are absorbed in a drinking competition, have to be practically dragged out of the tavern. But in the end, you are able to continue your journey. When you enter the pretty little village with its richly ornate houses and its temple to Palandil at its centre, you can see an angry mob some distance away. The villagers are hassling a young woman, insulting her and pushing her to the ground. You push your way through the crowd of people and stand in the way of the villagers.
What's going on here?
A man dressed in richly decorated vestments looks you up and down.
Palandil be with you, dwarf. It is none of your business, but this woman here is a thief. She and her henchmen have emptied the monastery's granary and were willing to abandon us to our fate.
That's a lie. We asked for help and these people turned us away. I came back to ask again.
What evidence do you have against this woman?
We found the granary broken into. Almost a third of our grain and a significant amount of supplies have gone. And all this just one day after she and her people were snooping around here.
That is indeed suspicious.
Really? We have a look around, steal some grain and supplies, and on the next day I come back to get myself captured.
The woman looks defiantly towards you and the priest.
Tell us what happened.
The villagers grumble, but the priest gives the woman a chance to defend herself.
My name is Tavia. I was forced to flee Tabayin with my family when the perished land began to spread. My husband, we had to leave him behind.
The horror in the woman's eyes gives you a good idea as to what became of her husband.
No one accepted us in the north. There are too many refugees and everyone is scared. Queen Wei has offered land in Wayan to anyone who will work hard for it. But what should we grow if no one will sell us grain? We offered a fair price, but Father Malin...
She darts a scathing gaze at the priest.
He wanted double the amount.
The priest glances briefly at the angry villagers. Then he replies in a firm voice.
It was a hard winter. And, with the increasing frequency of orc attacks, we must think of ourselves first and foremost. Even we cannot help everyone.
The bystanders mutter in agreement.
The accusations are serious, so let's get to the bottom of the matter to be completely sure.
We have no doubt that she did it.
The priest looks at the villagers standing around him, the lust for blood written in their faces.
On the other hand, before we do something we can't undo...
Dissatisfied murmuring grows, which the priest debates with mollifying gestures.
Search for your evidence. You there, lock this woman up in the guardhouse in the meantime.
The woman is taken into a squat building made of rough blocks of stone. The crowd slowly disbands. The priest is lost in thoughts, standing in front of the temple, as if he couldn't decide whether to go in or not.
I was wondering, what was here first, the temple or the village?
Ah, a keen eye. The temple is indeed much too big for such a small village. It was built on the foundations of an old stronghold when salt was found nearby. The village has grown over the years in the shadow of the temple. Good people live here, honest and pious children of Palandil.
He glances at the place where the woman was surrounded.
Why can't we just be left in peace?
Supposing Tavia really did steal the grain and supplies, but only to save her family, would you turn a blind eye?
Palandil teaches generosity, but that too must have its boundaries. We cannot help everyone. At some point there won't be enough for us.
So, if you had sold the grain, the people of Seaton would have starved?
Maybe not. Not yet. But if we always give everything we have away...
No one is saying always, and no one is saying everything.
The priest shrugs his shoulders apologetically. He doesn't wish to spoil things with his flock. You nod goodbye. You enter the village's large storehouse. The ground floor of the 2-story building is full of turnips, with large barrels and clay pots on the floor and on high shelves. Several villagers are carrying out stock-taking. They're being supervised by a weedy man who observes them with a grim expression and writes things on a wax tablet every now and then. Work is in full swing. The man with the wax tablet grumbles now and then in agreement when one of the peasants shouts out a number to him. It shouldn't take too much longer until they finish the inventory. There are sacks piled up on top of one another on the first floor. They are most likely filled with different kinds of grain and, judging by the omnipresent white dust, flour. You walk towards the only area in the storeroom where you can see the floorboards. You hesitate as your boots slip on the floor, as if you're walking on mud.
Tungdil?
The Magister Technicus carefully observes the roof beams above the empty corner. He grabs at a beam and crumbles something between his fingers. You can't make out what it is, so you copy him and feel damp, rotten wood. It's very easy to pull away small pieces.
What are you doing here?
The man with the wax tablet is standing on the stairs. He sounds half angry, half shocked.
No one is allowed in here.
The rain has gotten here. The roof and the floor are damp.
Those savages! It wasn't enough that they steal from us, they had to damage the roof too! That was probably where they got in.
The wood didn't start to rot yesterday, good man.
The steward's face turns bright red.
And you are the experts on such things, are you?
Assuming the roof here has been leaky for a long time, what would have happened to the grain in the sacks directly underneath? Wouldn't it have turned rotten?
The man wets his lips. His gaze darts around the room.
The roof was fine. I'll have it repaired. And now, get out of here!
The steward angrily blocks off all further attempts at talking to him, and even when you threaten him with Father Malin, it doesn't have the desired effect. The father trusts in him, he says, and he's always been a devout follower. The heavy door of the storehouse closes behind you, and you hear a bolt sliding into place from the inside. You enter the guardhouse, and before the guards know, Boindale and Boendal have caught them up in a friendly conversation. Shielded from the view of the guards, you exchange a few words with the suspect without being disturbed.
Where have you taken the grain and supplies?
I don't know anything about grain or supplies. Apart from the fact that we could do with both, I'm telling you, I am innocent!
Why did you come back to the village?
I wanted to negotiate with Father Malin for the grain. What else could I do? No sooner had I arrived than they surrounded me and accused me of robbery.
We won't let anyone do anything to you, but if we are going to help you, you will have to tell us the truth.
The woman looks you in the face, then her head sinks, and when she looks back up, she has tears in her eyes.
Please, I just want to go back to my family. I don't know what happened.
Tungdil.
You feel sympathy towards the woman. You raise your hand to silence Rodario and nod to the woman to continue talking.
We asked for grain and were full of hope when we saw the well-filled granary. But we hadn't reckoned on the malice of the people here.
A slow, ironic clap sounds from behind you. Confused, you turn around to face Rodario.
Bravo, my dear, with tears and everything. Tough luck that a master of the art of acting is present. None of what she said corresponds with the truth, Tungdil. She is lying and trying to deceive us. Not completely talentless for an amateur.
You expect the woman to deny everything, but when she overcomes her amazement, she spits in the actor's face.
And what if I am? I would do it all again. The people here have more than they need and my people are starving. Is that fair?
Why did you come back here after stealing the grain and supplies?
We didn't steal them. We paid for them. A reasonable price, just not to Father Malin.
You had help.
He promised us 36 sacks of grain. When we opened the sacks in our hideout, we realised that most of the grain was rotten. He thought he'd get away with it.
The woman looks around wearily.
And by the looks of things, he has.
Morris the steward offered you the grain, didn't he?
What does that matter? I've no proof it was him. And even if I did, if I admit that we have the stuff, I'll be hanging from a tree by this evening and my children will starve. I beg you, let me go. We bought the grain and the supplies. Perhaps he wasn't allowed to sell it to us. But we paid. And with a little seed we can sow, at least some of us have a chance of surviving the year.
How can I trust you? You lied.
Who wouldn't do everything to offer their children a future? Lying is the very least.
I don't want you to be hanged just because you tried to support your family. Go.
You open the door. The guards jump up, take up their swords, and let their hands sink down again when they feel the axes of the dwarves against their throats. The woman lays a hand on your shoulder for a moment as a sign of gratitude before she runs from the guardhouse.
I hope you know what you're doing, scholar.
Rodario's furrowed brow does not give you the feeling you've made an undisputed decision.
Namora, find out where she's heading and then rejoin us.
Fergus wants to raise an objection, but before he can think of the right words, Namora has kissed him on the mouth and has disappeared round the next corner. You leave the guardhouse and explain your plan to Father Malin. You expect him to object, but he seems to be satisfied. You assume he'll make you responsible for everything if something goes wrong, and will claim a piece for himself if you are successful. Like every night in the wilderness, you set up camp and assign the watch. Bavrigor takes first watch this evening, while the rest of you sit by a small fire, toasting some bread. You're not particularly surprised that neither Bavrigor nor any of the others notice the guest who suddenly appears out of the darkness next to you.
Namora!
Fergus jumps up, and moments later has embraced her tightly.
Were you able to find out anything?
She didn't detect me and led me straight to the hideout. I can show you. It's a cave some miles off from the path. Almost 46 people, men, women and children.
You nod. You have tracked down Tavia's hideout. Your path. You leave. You arrive.
Hey there!
When the boat has almost reached you, you give...
We could have died! I hope it...
You can make out a cave in the bank of a dried-out riverbed, with several small fires burning in it. You don't see any guards, so you approach carefully. Men and women jump as they notice you. There is terror written in their emaciated faces. When a little girl screams and runs away from you, the whole camp is alerted, and a group of men and women step out of the cave.
Is that them? Your benefactors?
Tavia, who came out of the cave next to the man, nods.
You've led them straight here.
Who are you?
The man resembles Tavia. His face too tells of a struggle between defiant determination and fatigue and resignation.
I am Gerald, Tavia's brother. I led these people here from Tabayin.
You look around you. You guess there are about 10 families, less than 50 people. Half of them are children and youths. Tabayin is a fertile country in the north, but much more importantly these days, it borders the Perish land to the east.
How are things in Tabayin?
Gerald's expression changes. It's as if he's looking through you.
The Perish land is raging. It poisons the spirit, and those who become possessed by it...
Gerald looks at his hands, which he involuntarily forms into claws.
They no longer recognize you. brothers, mothers, children. My brother-in-law. I had to...
With visible effort, he wrenches himself free of his terrible memories.
We can only hope that the Magi manage to build a new barrier soon.
You cannot bring yourself to quash the last hope he has.
Your sister couldn't have known that she was being followed. Namora has quite a talent for not being seen.
She shouldn't even have gone to Seaton in the first place. I knew that nothing good would come of it.
Tavia went to Seaton on her own initiative.
Our gold was gone and our supplies were dwindling, despite being on half rations. I said we should just take what we need if no one is going to help us, but my sister wouldn't have anything to do with it. She took the wedding jewellery from our village, the most valuable thing we had with us, and sold it without my knowing. She then took this money and went to Seaton with several men. I was completely beside myself when I heard about it, but then they came back with food and grain and I thought they had really done it.
He laughs cheerlessly and shakes his head.
For a few minutes we thought we were saved.
What's wrong with the grain from Seaton?
We thought we finally had a change of luck for the better. We were praying for a new start, and then we discovered that most of the grain was rotten and unusable. They'd been ripped off by the bloody steward. We all got together and discussed what was to be done. The majority was in favour of going to Seaton and taking what was due, at any price. The next morning, Tavia disappeared. It was clear to me that she had returned to Seaton. We were going to give her a couple of days. In the meantime, we prepared for our attack. We needed weapons, and we needed a plan.
The supplies and the grain, where are they?
Gerald glances at your companions.
The grain is mainly useless. There's only 4 or 5 usable sacks. We shared out the supplies and that'll keep us going for the next few weeks.
If you return the grain, Father Malin may temper justice with mercy.
Mercy?
Gerald spits at the floor.
Let my people starve so that the people in Seaton can live in affluence for another year? No, I won't let my family die. The grain and the supplies stay here.
Gerald braces himself, placing his right hand on his axe.
We should appease the people of Seaton. Give them back half their grain.
You raise your hand to nip Gerald's objection in the bud.
I am, of course, talking about the rotten grain. You keep the good grain, we will receive at least part of our reward, and Morris will be forced to explain how his excellent grain could turn rotten so quickly.
Boindale stares at you. Then a grin slowly spreads across his face.
Ha! That's our scholar!
You see tired but happy faces all around you. The people breathe a collective sigh of relief.
We'll take half of the grain back in secret. Know this, good dwarf. Whenever you need help, we will stand by your side. We don't have much to offer you, but we can muster together a few strong arms for battle, and we have some outstanding archers.
You nod, and are happy to have made some new friends.
So long, my friend.
The fishing village seems as busy as ever. You give Samuel the gold.
We could have done.
Your part. You leave. You enter Seaton. The priest is lost in thoughts, standing in front of the temple, as if he couldn't decide whether to go in or not.
The roof of the granary is leaky. We saw some rotten wooden planks.
Again? Morris only had the roof repaired last summer.
Did he? If he didn't, some of the grain would have got damp and rotten.
Out of the question. Morris would have reported that. He checks the grain once a month and there were no complaints.
The priest has absolutely no doubt in what he is saying, often a sign that someone hasn't thought things over. You nod. You enter the priest.
We have found the thieves' hideout.
Really? That's welcome news.
With an encouraging nod, the priest of Palandial prompts you to continue.
We spoke to the people there. It was very revealing.
And?
The priest gives you the same look he otherwise uses to reprimand the villagers' minor sins.
They say they paid Morris to sell supplies and grain to them.
The priest wants to object.
He ripped them off. That would be an explanation as to why Tavia came back this morning, don't you think?
The cogs are turning inside the priest's head. His expression reveals that he doesn't like his own conclusions.
And what about the grain and the supplies?
The refugees must have been very hungry. They'd already eaten supplies by the time we arrived at the camp. We were able to secure most of the sacks of grain. We'll take them to the storehouse.
The priest eyes you in silence, and you look back without batting an eyelid.
Very well. You have earned this, Mr. Dwarf.
The priest brings out a pouch. He thinks for a moment, and then pulls another smaller pouch from his robes and gives it you.
It is time that my congregation concentrates once more on the essentials in life, togetherness, and the compassion of the goddess.
He leaves you standing there without another word. When you enter the strongly fortified mountain village, you see a large group of miners standing around a shaft in heated discussion.
I really saw them, I swear!
A young man in mining clothes defiantly stares at an older man who is a good head taller than him.
Even if you did, smashing the lift hoist, it would have been better to have not sent the cage down again until we cleared this thing up.
Is there a problem?
The older man, perhaps a foreman, is so angry that he hardly seems to have realised that he's talking to a dwarf.
Mika here says that he saw orcs in the mine, and he smashed the lift hoist to bits. The cage has crashed to the bottom of the shaft. How are we supposed to work now?
Can we help you somehow?
Help? Well, we'll have to repair the hoist, and we need a new cage.
The foreman turns to a man next to him for answers. He's just as muscular, with dirty, calloused hands and an angular face.
It will take at least 2 weeks, but we don't need any help, unless you can speed up time.
I'll need 1 day. 2 at the most, if there are problems.
The foreman looks aghast at the Technicus, unsure whether he's joking or not.
1 day? Have you got any idea how...
Fergus is the most talented Magister Technicus in Girdlegard. And anyway, what have you got to lose? Let him help.
As long as he doesn't get in my way...
The worker shrugs his shoulders.
Why not?
Good. Then we'll help you. But we would like provisions for it. 30 rations.
Sure. If you pull it off, the provisions are yours. You really trust in your skills, don't you? Mika, give him a hand.
Fergus immediately gets to work, examining the hoist. After a few moments, he sends Mika off with a list of tools and spare parts, and explains to you how to build the cage, while he takes care of the hoist's rustic mechanism. After half a day, the cage is operational again, but Fergus is still busy with the hoist. You just hear him muttering.
So far, there is no automatic brake in case the ropes snap, but it shouldn't be too hard to fit one.
Fergus decides to fit the automatic brake, but it takes more time than expected. Building the hoist from scratch would have been simple, but the upgrade turns out to be complicated. In the end, it takes 2 days until the lift is operational again. After the work is done, you report to the foreman.
You've kept your part of the deal, we'll keep ours. Take the provisions for your journey.
You travel down into the mine in the repaired lift. Mika shows you the place where he saw the orcs, and you follow the winding gallery. After 1,000 paces, you stopped counting, and only after several hours do you reach an exit. There's a stench of tallow in the air. The tunnel leads directly into a huge orc camp, which blocks the pass into Snowdale Valley. If you attacked from here, you'd have the element of surprise on your side.
I could go and take a look and perhaps improve our chances for an attack.
You remember how the actor had transformed himself into Lot Yonin and Nudin in Mithridania. You certainly wouldn't bet against him being able to walk through the orc camp unnoticed.
I'll come with you. If I stay in the shadows, they won't see me.
The actor nods gratefully.
I'll come too. I also know how to keep myself hidden.
Nomura wants to object, but you are quicker.
Thank you, Geralda. 2 more eyes and ears would be helpful on such a mission. Listen, try to sabotage their defenses, and if you can safely take out a couple of guards, then do it. But don't take any big risks. Come back here if things get too hairy.
Nomura and Rodario rejoin you without any particular urgency. The infiltration was a complete success. No one detected the two of them. The village... You discover some ancient ruins and an orc camp in a gorge. A small group of Bognalim is moving between tents, piles of rubbish and cages. In one of the cages, you think you can make out some movement.
They're coming out the holes.
You there! My bag! Over there! Quick! You'll have to smoke them out!
Yes!
Of course!
Grenades! Throw them into the holes.
Yeah?
And again! Yes? At once. On my way.
Who's next?
Kill! At once. On my way. Kill! Understood. At once. Understood.
That's it!
Understood. Pavrakas! Understood. At once. And again.
Who's next?
Vile creature. And again. Kill. And again. Kill. Vile creature. Kill.
Your death is called Geralda!
Vile creature. Kill. Vile creature.
And what
again.
now? Who's next?
What? On my way.
Vile creature. Kill.
He hardly put up a fight.
Kill.
What is it?
Vile creature. Huh? And again.
Over there?
Too many
What is it?
enemies.
I'm with you. Come here, you.
Vile creature.
Your death is called Geralda!
Yes, yes.
And again.
Huzzah! I'm with you.
Vile
Yeah?
creature.
Very impressive, I must say. Let me out, my friends.
Dried herbs.
Oh, thank you. Have you seen Helga? Helga? Helga! Where are you?
A pile of wood. Or is it actually a pyre? All right. Something's not quite right. An improvised bracket on which you could hang something. Hello? I am Tungdil Goldhand. These are my companions Boindil, Boendal, Rodario, Fergus and Namora, Bavragor and Goimgar.
Have you seen Helga?
No, we haven't. If you don't mind me asking, what is your name?
Call me Ensign and drop the pleasantries.
If I may, who is this Helga?
Helga? Where?
I don't know. I just wanted to know.
Helga is my wife. Didn't I mention that? We came here together, but then the orcs came and she was gone. Do you think she might have gone home? Helga!
You have a dark notion of what might have happened to Helga, but as you have no proof, you'd rather say nothing.
If you see her, you'll let me know, right?
I wanted to thank you. Your grenades really helped us.
Grenades? Oh, yeah, no problem. I used them to break up boulders, but I ended up attracting these pests. Who was to know there are Bognolum around here? And as if that weren't bad enough, along came the orcs and took my ox skull. Gosh! And Helga, where is Helga?
What brings you to these parts, Ensign? It's not exactly the nicest of places.
Aren't you here for the festival? The unbelievable Wackenstein Festival. My wife and I desperately wanted to see it for ourselves. The blind guardian, the statue over there, is the key. He calls people from far and wide to the festival. I finally found some information in the archives of Virunciensis as to how the Guardian is activated.
Do you know anything about a secret passage through the mountains?
Secret passage? No, can't say I do. But they say that when the blind guardian awakens, then people will come to the festival from all corners of the world. Maybe they'll come from the mountains too.
So what have you found out about the festival, Ensign?
You see that statue? That's the blind guardian. You could call him the patron saint of Wackenstein. They say that when the festival begins, then the revellers heed his call from all corners of the earth. According to my research, we need 3 things to start the festival. A burning ox skull, the fire-eater bell, and vervain. I actually had it all, but, well, yeah, then the orcs came.
Where will we find the Fire Eater Bell, and what kind of a name is that anyway?
Varenciensis. I tracked you down to a collector who lives outside the city in an estate on the south wall. According to the legend, the bell was mounted in a black tower. The tower caught fire. The bell fell down and smothered the source of the fire. Now, I'm sure you can work out the rest. The ringing of the bell opens the way for the blazing fire in our souls. At least that's what is written.
Varenciensis. So what are we waiting for? We'll visit the collector and...
It would be best if you went without me. I have some things to prepare here.
It should be easy to find an ox's skull, or we...
Oh, can't just be any old ox skull.
Is it this one here?
Stone that crows, you already have it. Excellent. That is a good omen.
And what do we do?
Oh, that's simple. The ox skull must be set on fire.
You're not sure what kind of celebration needs a burning ox skull, but the mission doesn't sound too difficult.
Vervain, doesn't that grow in Ergon? It's a hell of a long way from here.
Ha! Don't worry. I have a bag, just a minute. It's gone.
Is this what you're looking for?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I thought I'd lost it.
You did lose it. To begin the festival, we need the ox...
Exactly.
You're quite sure you're wasting your time.
See you later, Ed.
Let me know.
Your feet carry you back to Varence. You follow the street to an estate on the south wall, which is surrounded by a fence. The paved path to the door is lined with hydrangea. You knock on the door gently, and after a while it is opened by a chubby man in expensive clothes. The man gives you a fleeting glance.
We don't want to buy anything.
He intends to close the door again without waiting for your answer. You put your foot in the crack of the door.
Wait, you have a rare bell in there, Fire Eater, am I right?
The man pauses.
Fire Eater? How?
Before he can finish what he's saying, a red-haired woman pushes past him. She is also wearing expensive clothes and is heavily made up. After she gives him a stern look, the man disappears into the house. She scrutinizes you with greenish blue eyes.
How do you know about that, Shorty?
I, heard from someone in the city.
In the city? But the city whose gates are closed to everyone. Of course, I believe that. Go to Tion, groundling, and don't come.
You go back to the rest of the group.
Doesn't look like it went too well. Maybe I should try my luck, Tandil. I can be very persuasive.
Rodario follows the hydrangea-lined path to the door in elegant strides. He knocks on the door energetically, and a little later the door is opened by a red-headed woman. When she sees Rodario, her expression lightens. She opens the door fully and takes a tentative step forward.
What can I do for you? Are you a singer? An actor? Or a lute player?
The name is Rodario Fairmaid, gifted showman, mime and dramatist. At your service.
Rodario elegantly pulls the hat from his head and bows before her.
Your wonderful hydrangeas really caught my attention. You have exquisite taste.
The woman's greenish-blue eyes sparkle at his charm, and Rodario can't deny himself a smile, confident of victory.
You are a real charmer, Mr. Rodario. I'm sure you flatter all the ladies like this, don't you?
Oh no, by no means, my love. I just can't avoid it when I see beauty such as yours.
Oh, don't play with my feelings, Mr. Rodario. You probably haven't even noticed the colour of my eyes.
She playfully turns her head away to hide her face.
I will never be able to forget your greenish-blue eyes as long as I live.
A smile follows, then a glance from those eyes, which are indeed a greenish blue.
It would seem to me you have a skilled tongue and a love of details.
Anyone who does not notice your beauty must be walking through life with eyes closed. In terms of my tongue...
Oh, Mr. Rodario. How about a private presentation of your skills?
Rodario lays an experienced hand around the woman's waist and disappears into the house with her.
At your service, my dear.
After an hour, Rodario comes out of the house with a broad grin on his face and the bell in a bag.
The bell, as ordered. Apart from the esteemed Nomura, no woman has ever resisted my sweet words, not to mention my hands when...
All right.
You feel your cheeks turning red as you imagine what Rodario has just done. The old...
Henson,
Have you found...
to begin the
Exactly.
You're quite sure...
See you later, Henson.
Let me know.
Fits like a glove.
Loud and powerful music follows the fog and the figures, crushing over your head in roaring waves. The force of the music clouds your senses, and it seems as if the statue of the blind guardian rises from his throne. You want to draw your companion's attention to it, but then you suddenly realize that you have a tankard of ale in your hand. You instinctively try it, and are happy to note that you haven't drunk such good ale since Ogre's death. The night becomes a colourful whirl of ale, music, dance and ecstasy. You can no longer remember why you're here or who you're celebrating with. For a few hours you forget what was and what is to come. You are completely in the here and now. You wake up the next morning. You're lying on your back and staring into a sky that is much too bright. You turn onto your side with difficulty and see your companions all around you, but no one else. The remains of a wild party, campfires, tents, and ale tankards are still there, but the magic has gone. You stand up, muttering curses, and try to suppress the taste in your mouth and the pain in your head. To your great surprise, you see that the stony figure of the blind guardian has revealed a tunnel that leads into the rock of the mountain.
If we go on now, we probably can't come back. The mechanism looks like it will close the pass behind us. We should be sure that we have done all we need to.
While you rest under a ledge at noon, Rodario and Fergus decide to go ice fishing, and the dwarves immediately pronounce their opposition.
Ice and water are both treacherous. They entice you to them. Before you know it, you disappear into them forever.
Like in a marriage, you mean? At first the woman entices you, but if you stay in her arms like a good boy, the good life is over all too quickly.
The good life, in which you go behind the backs of other men, get beaten up and one day die painfully of a sexually transmitted disease.
All slander, my dear.
Rodario bares his teeth for a moment and then follows Fergus to the shore.
He reminds me of a billy goat we used to have. Mounted everything that got in its way. One day he mounted a goat that was standing too close to a cliff. The two of them fell down the cliff in the best of spirits.
Your path leads you over a snowy, hilly plain, and as you scale a particularly steep hill, you falter. A crevasse opens out in front of you. You look around, but there isn't any point nearby where you could cross over the gap. You follow the course of the crevasse. After an hour, the end of the crevasse is still not in sight. However, you do find a cave that slopes down softly parallel to the crevasse. You are afraid that you might get lost in the ice cave and freeze to death in misery. But ultimately, your curiosity is rewarded. You find after an hour's search a winding passage that leads you to a large chamber. You walk ahead with your torch outstretched and see a shadow in the ice. You step backwards in shock as you realize that it's the body of a frozen human. Something glittering in the floor grabs Goimgar's attention. An ornamented gold shield. Part of it is frozen into the ice, but it should be easy to free.
Pure gold! This thing must be worth quite a bit, though it would be completely useless in a fight.
Wouldn't that be like tomb raiding?
Your companion doesn't answer. You allow Goimgar to free the shield from its icy prison. After you've had a look around the rest of the chamber and taken a short break, you look for a way back up to the surface. You are able to continue on your way without any further delay. You finally arrive at the entrance to a valley that curves its way towards Ironhald, the Firstling stronghold.
By Vracus, we've done it! Get down!
Up there!
Run! I can't maintain the spell for long!
Put him on Goimgar's shield! To the gate! Quick!
As you approach the first gate, you see guards on the battlements. You call as you run.
By Vracus, we are dwarves of the kingdoms of the Secondlings and the Fourthlings. Open the gate!
Their leader gives orders that you cannot hear, but moments later, the gate opens up for you.
Report back! Man the walls and the defences!
The guards follow the orders immediately.
Who are you that lead the Alpha to our door?
How dare you speak to us like that? Dwarf who seems to have no name?
Boindale steps forward before you can stop him.
I am Boindale Doubleblade, a child of the smith of Barrowen folk. And that is my brother Boindale, who needs a healer immediately.
The commander pulls down his scarf, and his face leaves you speechless.
Only a dwarf could make such a fuss. Balender Steelfinger. I protect the main gate of the Firstlings, therefore it is my duty to regard all guests precisely before I invite them in.
You were a woman!
You have a keen eye, Boindil Doubleblade.
The tender features and soft fluff leave no room for doubt. A female dwarf is the commander of the guard. She gives orders for the injured Boindal to be taken care of. 4 dwarves pick him up on his shield, and Boindil follows them.
Stay with your brother. I will bring the rest of you to Queen Zamtis, where you can explain what you're doing here.
Come closer, and be welcome to the kingdom of the Firstlings.
I am Tungdil Goldhand of the Fourthling Kingdom.
You introduce your companions one by one, not forgetting to mention the twins and the Mager too. You then explain the reason for your visit. You report on the advance of the Perish Land, the death of the Magi, and the dispute about the next High King. The dark brown eyes of the Queen fix on you for a moment before she speaks.
What you report sounds very serious, Tungdil. You can be sure of the support of the Firstlings. How may we assist you?
There is only one way to defeat Nodon. Keenfire. To forge it, we need the best smith your kingdom has to offer. Help us, and thus help your kingdom, my queen.
The Queen considers, then nods.
So be it. Could there ever be a better time to revive the old commonality of the kingdoms? Balandis here is not only my best warrior, she is also my best smith. She will accompany you.
Your eyes fall upon Balandis, and you notice the blood rushing to your cheeks.
I will do my best. You can trust in my axe and my hammer.
We must continue on our journey to the Firstlings in the Grey Range.
Then I will show you the entrance to the tunnels. You will be in the Perish Land within a few orbits.
You know the tunnels, but still the Firstlings live in seclusion.
Our isolation was self-imposed. My mother knew that the other kingdoms would not simply accept her as the queen. She wanted to give them time to get used to it.
Your Highness, in the name of the Council of the Kingdoms, I request that you send a delegation to the Blue Range to take part in the discussions. We all have a common enemy.
There has never been any enmity between my kingdom and the others. It was more neglected friendship and habit that has made us strangers to one another. As soon as you set off for the Grey Range, we will head east to see our brothers and sisters again. I will have rooms prepared for you and your companions so that you can rest. It has been some time since we have had guests, but we still know what hospitality means. Come to me when you are ready to depart.